I've said it on this channel before, but I never owned a PlayStation 4. Therefore, the console I held throughout the 8th console generation was the PlayStation 3, which is why I have a fairly decent collection of its library sitting right behind me. And maybe it's because I wasn't in the right circles and nobody else I knew ever played it, but I managed to avoid one of the PS3's last big hitters in Journey. Developed by that game company and published by Sony and Annapurna Interactive, Journey is about an hour and a half to 2 hours long, but I feel like it's one of those games that's going to stick with me for a very long time. Journey is a very simple game. You're just a little guy in a robe going through a desert to reach a big temple, getting to a bunch of other smaller temples along your way, and its gameplay isn't really anything crazy to go write home about. Unlike how I'm currently writing about it. You can move, albeit fairly slowly, in the desert sand, slide down dunes with one button allowing you to play a single note. However, this note will also activate a bunch of these floating red pieces of cloth, and by noising near them, they fly onto your scarf, and they briefly allow you to fly. And that's kind of it. That's the general gameplay loop in essence. Paired with gorgeous art direction, this would be enough for a good game, but again, nothing you'd really be hanging on. So I made my way through the opening level, reached the game's second, took a second to admire the view before me, before continuing to move on. That's when I saw this white light illuminating the far right of my screen, and I turned to see this random guy also making his way through the desert. I went into this game completely blind, and so I had absolutely no idea that this game had multiplayer elements, but I thought that, realistically, this game would just have some ghost of another player's playthrough appear in my game. So after making some notes back and forth, I went to leave, only for this random ghost to keep following me, which made me realize that this was someone else. This was an actual person, and they weren't going anywhere. And so we continued on our journey. After making my way through this series of levels with, again, some of the most gorgeous visuals I've ever seen in a game, and completing the slide to reach the next meditation spot, I couldn't find my buddy. And I stood waiting for them for about 5 minutes. I was trying to pose for the thumbnail only to not get a clear enough image. I paused my own gameplay experience because I don't know, I didn't have this guy playing notes near me. I don't know if he got on before me and just carried on without me, or if I was waiting for him because he got lost or something. But it was crazy because this was just some random fellow pilgrim making their way around this desert, but the separation at the end just made me a little bit sad, and continuing my journey from here was going to be a little bit more hollow. Making my way through this darker, dingier setting on my own was lonely, even if I had no verbal communication before this with my previous companion, until I ran into somebody new. Also in this dark environment, me and this other random pilgrim just stuck together with these massive dragon monster things just flying around trying to kill the two of us. It felt good to not be going through this environment on my own. And as the sand turned to snow and the wind batted us back, walking past what I took to be the headstones of those who had tried this pilgrimage before us, the two of us just kept on keeping on. There was one part I remember really fondly where I got blown back by the wind, And this guy just stalled for a second to let me catch back up with him. And he was even like pressing his note button a load of times, panicked as though he was worried for me. Little moments like that, just building of the camaraderie between two people, just playing a silly game and not even talking to one another. That's what makes Journey what it is. And even as our speed slowed down to nearly a crawl, astronomically slow with our small little robed guys barely able to stay upright, myself and this random guy I've never spoken to in my life and probably never will again walked shoulder to shoulder into the light. And we rose together. Journey is a special game, not for its length or some deeper, meaningful story like other PlayStation games of its period, but because it manages to form a bond between players with 0 lines of dialogue and just one button press. Sure, the first guy I came into contact with got split away from me, but I found others to take along my path. It doesn't make the first guy any less important to the overall adventure, but I think Journey becomes such a special game to me because it's a microcosm for all of us. I'm by no means a social butterfly. I sit in my room and make YouTube videos, but I've still always yearned and always will yearn for that companionship along my way, along what it is that I do. And I think throughout all of my creative endeavors, I've still managed to find those people. So maybe, despite how gorgeous and idyllic the destination may be, maybe that's not what it's all about. Maybe it's about the journey. And maybe it's about the people that you meet along the way.